Hey devs, April here. Welcome to another live stream here on the Appian Community YouTube channel. Where is everyone tuning in from today on this lovely Friday? Today we're trying out a new day of the week, and we're also trying out a new format that I'm really hoping you'll enjoy. So please let me know in the chat what you think. During our last live stream, Dave Hillier and Michael Van Ness joined me to discuss maximizing the reusability of your interfaces for the design library. At the end of that, I announced our very first Appian Community Quick Build competition. What was the challenge? To use what you learned from the live stream and build a reusable calendar component. Today is the grand finale of the competition. We'll be going through some of the submissions and also challenging the finalists to one last head-to-head competition before determining the winner. We have prizes for the winners as well as raffle prizes for all participants, so make sure you stick around to the end to find out. To join me in today's discussion, I'm very excited to welcome Christine Danzy and Justin Schlapp to the stream. Howdy. All right, Christine, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience? Who are you?
Hi, everyone. As you already heard, my name is Christine. I'm an associate manager of UX design on our product team here at Appian. I've actually been at Appian for about 8 years now, worked across different roles, and I've even worked on different patterns and templates such as the calendar template on the app market. So I'm really excited to check out these calendar templates we have today.
Great. What about you, Justin?
Hey everyone, my name is Justin Schlapp. I'm a senior solutions consultant here with Appian. Not quite 8 years. I've been here for almost 2 years. And so I work primarily to create compelling demonstrations for our customers. So I use the amazing guidance of our UX teams and people like Christine to bring our customers' applications to life.
Amazing. Yeah, so I'm really excited to have you two here today to share your expertise as we go through some of the submissions and talk about ways that we can improve, because that's what this channel is all about, right? Learning and becoming better Appian developers. So let's meet our finalists. I'd love to bring them all on screen. So Gavin actually, unfortunately, is traveling today, so couldn't join us. So we have his nice picture there. But let's start left to right and go through some introductions. So Soumya, why don't we start with you?
This is Soumya from Excel. I'm a certified Appian senior developer, and I have overall of 4 years of experience in Appian. So I'm a kind of person who always excited to expertise my my knowledge in all the challenges. So yeah, I'm passionate about problem solving, and yeah, I always enjoy the thrill how we are overcoming the all the challenges. So yeah, this is pretty much about me. Yeah, cheers to all the finalists. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. What about you, Jones?
I'm Jones Prakash. I work with Excel Limited as a senior consultant, and I'm from India and currently living in UK. And I started my career with Appian, and it's been amazing 4 years working in this amazing technology. And I'm sort of person who believes technology can bring fun, fast, and fabulous. And I just brought that to the table, and that's why I'm here. And my best wishes to the fellow finalists, and may the best one can win.
Awesome. Mathu, finishing last but not least. Oh, muted. One second. We have a lot more going on today, so please bear with us. Okay, you're good, I think.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Mathu from India. I work as a senior consultant at Excel. I have been with Excel for almost 2 years now, and I have been in the world of Appian for about 5 years, working closely with clients from finance, insurance, and banking sectors. And yeah, I am very excited to join my first YouTube live stream, and I wish the best to all the other finalists.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Love the friendly competition here. And I don't know if anyone picked up on it, but actually all three of you are from Yexel. So most of our submissions, almost half of them came from Yexel. So thank you all so much for being such active, engaged members of the community. And of course, thank you to everyone that submitted and participated here. So let's go into what I'm going to be torturing these people with today. No, we're gonna have fun here. So what are they going to be doing? Well, they're going to have 15 minutes for a final challenge. we're going to talk about the UX while they're doing this of some of the other submissions, but the other part of this challenge was about the reusability. So for the final challenge, they're going to try to use the components that they created to show a month view of game schedule data, a week view of movie showtimes, and a day view of someone's like personal schedule routine. So I've put all this data into the environment for them, and the data is in different formats. So again, if all of this sounds like a little crazy to you, I highly recommend checking out the dataless design live stream that we did last time, because those are the concepts that would allow you to be able to try and accomplish this. So we're only giving them 15 minutes. Does anyone have any questions before we begin and start the timer here? I think we're good. Thumbs up. All right. Great. How the rest of the submissions went, and maybe some tips and tricks on how to improve them. So Justin, let's pull some up here. Where should we start?
Yeah, let's maybe take a look at a first few of these components where maybe we have some UX UI feedback, and then also we have some improvements for how they can make their components a bit more dataless so they're more reusable. So we can start here.
All right, so Christine, what are your first impressions here? You've seen a lot of things in your time. You've done a lot of UX reviews. So where would you start in helping someone improve this interface?
Yeah, so for this interface, I'd say I'd first focus on color, right? In terms of when you are using color in a page, you want to use it more sparingly, right? So all the cards right now are in a color, and they're also using kind of these like negative and positive connotation colors as well. You typically want to reserve these like redder tones for errors on the screen, right? So if I open this page, I might actually think that, there's something I need to fix. And so you definitely want to use color sparingly. And in terms of color, less is more, right? You use color to draw attention, figure out if something needs to be addressed. And so you can simplify this by honestly taking them out of the cards, making it more white, utilizing spacing a bit more instead, and maybe use color to highlight what day it is, or maybe if there are certain events on that day instead.
Really great feedback. Justin, anything else stand out to you about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I also think that this comes up a lot when I'm working with different types of clients, and they have to take into consideration users who may have different types of visual impairments. So if you ever are going to use color, I think just being mindful of how certain colors may look very similar to certain types of users. So if you're trying to use them for different reasons, that's something else to be mindful of. I think about that when I'm looking at this top section and that middle section. They look pretty similar, right? So just having that big difference across the colors, definitely is helpful.
That's also really good feedback. And we have a lot of great accessibility tools that designers can use when building applications. And correct me if I'm wrong, Christine, but I think there's a section on design.appian.com around accessibility, right?
Yes, we give a lot of guidance, especially in terms of using color, right? If you do have color on your screen, you want to make sure the contrast works well, right? If you have colored text on a background, how that looks. And even some of our components, you want to keep in mind if you need certain accessibility text for screen readers. So yeah, design.appian.com is a great resource to learn not just about patterns and templates, but also, other accessibility requirements.
Great. All right, that's some really good feedback there. If anyone has any questions about color or anything that we just discussed in the chat, or going forward have any questions, please shoot them in. We have Christine's wealth of UX knowledge to pick at. Justin, what interface do you want to go to next?
Let's maybe take a look at daisies here. I know that some initial thoughts came to mind here for this one, so I'll turn it back over to you, April.
Okay, yeah, so this one, we had a few submissions that were kind of static calendars displaying, just a calendar, but not giving us the opportunity to put in a list of event data here. So this is to me, a pretty nice looking calendar for the simplicity's sake. However, I think the dark mode, Christine, I think developers really like dark mode. When you're looking at a lot of code, it can really be easier on the eyes. But in terms of an end user experience, what is your recommendation with dark mode?
Yeah, typically I think holistically about the environment that you're building, right? And who that person you're building for, right? Who that persona is. As you mentioned, developers, right? They're very used to applications in dark mode. So if you're building a more like dev-centered application, maybe that's something that fits. But let's say, the rest of the theming of your environment is in like a light theme or, colored in certain brandings for your application, you'd want to stick with that, right? It may feel a little off if I'm on one landing page that's like in this light theme, and all of a sudden I go on the calendar and it's in a dark theme mode, right? And so just having that consistent feel across your environment is really what's important.
Yeah. Justin, on the terms of themes and consistencies, I mean, as a solutions consultant, you have to go in and do a lot of different demos. So where do you get inspiration for what themes to use and how to keep consistency across a demo or application you're building?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first place I usually go is whatever prospect that I'm working with. I usually go to their website, actually, because we often find that their external facing web applications are very similar to the applications they create for their users internally as well. So I usually grab the hex codes from their logo, maybe a few different codes from around their website. And what you'll often find is that there's really only 2-3 colors involved in their branding. And so I think, on the other side of this spectrum, this is an opportunity where we could use more color, right? So identify what those accent colors in a customer's branding might be and throw those in, right? Because I can see here that they're trying to draw attention to today being the 11th by making that a little bit bigger and bolded on the actual calendar. But let's really accentuate that even more. And I think using the branding that the prospect or the client has is a great way to do that.
That's really, really great feedback. And then also, if you're just building things randomly, one website I love to use is coolers.co that can come up with color palettes for you. So there's also just like tools on the internet. UX is a huge thing for everyone around the world and a lot of software companies. So even tools outside of the Appian space can also be helpful. Justin, where are we going next?
There were a few that, we're starting to get more into that dataless design. So let's take a look at those. I really wanted to focus here on Amitesh's because I think there is room for improvement here. I think this is off to an excellent start, but I guess I'll turn it back over to you to ask that first question to Christine.
Yeah. So Christine, I know that I remember when like cards were coming out and also when we were adding the ability to put cards on cards on cards. I think a lot of us got a little bit guilty of going card crazy. So what are your tips on finding that right balance of using cards versus space and stacking things?
Yeah, it's a great topic. And cards can definitely be utilized to help group content. And I think that's what was trying to be done here, right? We're trying to like group the information of the day within each other and then even the activity within each other. But the problem is when you start nesting cards, it creates a lot of visual clutter on the screen. And so it's like harder to scan. And as you kind of touched upon, sometimes just spacing is a great way to show that content is grouped together, right? If you find yourself putting something in a box, you take that box away and then just add a little more padding, you'll notice visually you create a box with just the content itself, right? And so I feel like in this case, instead of having each card for each day, maybe we could have just utilized some column dividers instead. Kind of let's see how it feels with like some reduced, card lines and create groupings that way, right? So you can still find structure in the page without feeling like you have to put everything in a box.
Yeah, everything in a box or a card.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Justin, did you have any other comments before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I think that in solutions consulting, we always talk about consistency is what can take a good UX to a great one or a great one to a stellar. And so I see here, like on the topic of cards, right? They're using cards in different manners here, but they're a little inconsistent with how they're being used. And so drawing your attention to the days at the top of this calendar, right? We see that these cards are using the border, but they're not using the shadow. If we get down to the actual dates themselves, you are using that shadow. And so if you're using cards for different purposes, maybe there isn't like, I think, a one fell swoop, but just given how many cards are being used here, I think that consistency, if they are going to use this many, would make the UX just look a little bit better. And I think that's a good rule of thumb across any UI that you're building.
Love it. Love it. Okay, what's the next one? Let's keep getting through.
Yeah, let's look at agams from KPMG. I was drawn to this one because I liked that it looked very familiar to my Google Calendar. Honestly,
Right.
I clicked from my calendar to jump into this meeting, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm looking at the same thing."
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about taking inspiration from what already exists. Appian is great because it gives us all tools to do more as an individual, to be able to be a part of every single layer of the app building process. But when we look at other companies like Google or other software companies, these companies have huge UX teams, and that's their sole focus, is like coming up with beautiful UIs and UXs. And like you said, Justin, they're familiar to us as consumers of these things. So taking inspiration from really great design out there in the world can also be a really great way to elevate your interfaces. Christine, any other comments on that?
Yeah, no, whenever I'm working on something new, whether it's like for work or personal, definitely look out there for inspiration. It's been built many times, and you realize something's easier to use when you're more familiar with it, right? We know that you can click on a button because we all know what a button looks like, right? So if you all of a sudden made this button look like a triangle, you're like, is that something I interact with? Is it not? And so using those patterns across just keeps a consistent experience. And kind of on the topic of reusability, right? If you create a pattern in an application and you make that reusable, then you have not only a consistent UX, but ease of development as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I have anything else here. You know, anyone out there in the chat, if you have any thoughts or questions, you know, we're here. I'm over here monitoring it. Let's maybe click around to some other calendars. We had a lot of submissions here.
Yeah, we definitely had a lot of submissions. And I also, if you want to, after we look through a few more of these, we can maybe jump into the back end just quickly, and we can look at why some of those maybe weren't as dataless, or to Christine's point, as reusable for a developer's experience. So maybe we can take a look at one more quickly here. I thought that this was a great use of our out-of-the-box patterns that we have in a lot of different ways. And I think it expanded a little bit beyond just the calendar itself. But I think that this was a good example of where you can integrate a smaller component like a calendar into a broader overall user experience.
Yeah, great point here. And this was one that, you know, quite a little bit out of the scope of the challenge itself, but you know, definitely a lot going on, and using a lot of those patterns that Christine and her team work on. Yeah. Let's jump to another one.
Yeah, let's do it.
Richard, maybe. So
yeah, let's take a look at Richard's.
One thing I liked about Richard's, and he did do some dataless design here. You might see words up here that you may not recognize as days, but that's because this is in German. And he actually had a rule input for the for a language setting to dynamically add language. So localization is a huge thing. You know, we're an internationally used company, a lot of different languages here. So Christine, are there any tips around localization or language use?
Yeah, I feel like it comes into play, particularly when you're designing something. And if you know it's going to be internationalized, it may make you consider how you style the text or display the text, right? If you're only thinking in your language, you're like, oh yeah, this looks great and so balanced because all my text fits in here. But then you have to step back and realize, oh, this is going to be internationalized. How does this design scale in terms of like other languages?
Great point. Justin, have you ever had to do demos using any localization at all, or any tips?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that this is like getting a little bit more tactical, but earlier this year, especially, there was release related to like phone numbers and currency, and having an out of the box function within Appian that allows you to say, oh, like if this user is, you know, X, then display that this value in this certain type of way. So like beyond the user experience, like those small details that you're usually serving up in a form or, you know, in a summary view of some sort, I think Appian's made significant strides to making that more accessible for users regardless of where they're consuming the information.
Yeah. And I would like to give a tie back to the app market, which I always do. It was my first baby. We actually have a utility on the app market called Application Translator that was developed by a solution consultant, Alejandro, that is really cool. And always check out the app market. There's tools there that can help you. Christine's calendar template utility that she made years ago is up there. So yeah, a lot of good stuff to check out. So I think we have just about a minute left. So let's jump into one more before we switch over and look through the finalists.
Okay, let's maybe take a look at like the more of these calendars that we had displayed here. I think that this one was definitely a good use of like thinking more holistically in how a calendar might be leveraged. Like they took into consideration, oh, like when is this person maybe unavailable, out of office, and having that display on the calendar. Just something else that's really familiar that I liked personally.
Yeah. And this is like an example of two like subtle colors to highlight things. So it's much easier for my eye to go and find those. Maybe we could click one more.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I think let's see if it's clickable. I think it might be clickable.
Let's see. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah.
The dynamic display of the events that are that day.
Yeah. Gavin couldn't be here. I actually recorded him doing it yesterday, so we're playing the recording of him trying to complete the challenge. So I think now we just have Samia and Matthew here. So any first reactions? Was that a little stressful? Samia, let's start with you.
Yeah. So yeah, it was quite a bit challenging only because we are having only 15 minutes. So in that, like by bringing up different data types, records, like a map and dictionary, and configuring that for that itself, it is taking 15 minutes. And like apart from this, we are having some data to be like typecasted or something we are having, right? So yeah, really it is challenging.
Yeah. What about you, Matthew? We're got no audio.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so my hands are like shaky and shivering, full of sweats. And yeah, I try to call the interfaces which I have created as part of the calendar component. But the thing I thought, I mean, I was actually about to call the same interfaces in the sites. But unfortunately, I think we could not call it because of the rule inputs, it seems. So I was getting an error there while calling the interfaces in the site. So that's the only thing which I have missed. Otherwise, I could have completed. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, this is really stressful. I will share out the data afterwards on community. So anyone that participated, or if you didn't try, you can go and take more time. Again, they had 15 minutes and I just told them about this. So, give them credit for trying. I'm a little bit evil and I'm sorry, but let's go through the initial submissions and why you all were selected as finalists. So let's walk through those.
Yeah. So we can start with Samia.
Yep.
All right. Perfect.
All right. So maybe before Christy and Justin, you give some commentary. So, Samia, do you want to talk about your inspiration for this?
So yeah, when I hear this, the first thing came into my mind is the outlooks, because we are actually familiar with outlooks. So because in outlooks we will be having these kind of grids only, and hovering that we will be like they will be displaying the what the event is and how like everything. By clicking on that, in the right side they will be displaying, and also initially they will be loading two only. When clicking on that only, they will be listing out all the. So like for this month view, I just taken the inspiration from the outlooks. And like we have week view and day view, right? For that and all, it's not exactly like the Outlook, and I just gone through many of the applications, and I surfing the internet like in Google and all. I found some of the like applications. So yeah,
Cool.
it's a
Yeah.
overall research, yeah, but
Yeah.
it has started from Outlooks only.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Taking inspiration from things that have been built by teams of people fully dedicated to this, and that's also using our own patterns, right? Christine and her team are working on creating these reusable things for us. So, Christine, why don't we start with you? What are some things you like about this calendar here?
What I like is a good example of how you can highlight common elements but not overuse color. So what I mean by that is you notice each of the events on the calendar day itself are in these like tags, and the gray works really nice to keep it like more neutral, right? If the brighter teal was used, I feel like it might be a little overwhelming. So it shows how you can still make something, feel like a common element without overusing color and overloading the page. So I think that worked out really well.
Yeah, I definitely love simplicity too myself there. Justin, what about you? What do you like?
I just think like as a user, like this is very intuitive for me to just jump from, the month to week to day. And then even from whatever view I'm looking at, I know exactly what's going on. And I think that's the most important part of UX is like, will someone A, know how to use it, and then B, have a great experience while they're using it? And I think that this hits really both of those nails on the head.
Yeah, really, really great points. And speaking of know how to use it, Christine, I remember in a UX presentation a few years ago internally learning about the trunk test from someone on your team. So can you explain that to the audience? What's the trunk test?
So essentially, let's say you were popped into a trunk and like driven somewhere, and then you popped out of the trunk. Do you know where you are? Do you know where you came from? And do you know where you're going? It's a very funny visualization, but essentially that's what we like to test for our UIs, right? When you land on a screen, do you know what you're looking at? Do you know where you came from? And do you know what to do next, right? So think of the trunk test, think of being in a trunk, whatever helps you be a better designer. It's a great kind of story to think about.
Yeah, being thrown in a trunk, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that. That is like one that I heard once and I go to it like every single time I'm making an interface. I wonder, people in the chat, do you have any quick UX rules that you heard once that you're always thinking about? We'll wait for some comments to come in and let's move on to the next one. Why don't we go to Jones?
Okay.
All right. So Justin, why don't we start, or actually Jones, why don't we start with you? What's your inspiration here?
Okay. So I was going through all the calendar components across
audio?
everywhere.
1 second.
Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. We can still see Jones, but unfortunately somehow lost the audio. So maybe Jones, you can get on the YouTube stream and type in the chat some of your inspiration there. But okay, Justin, why don't we start with you? What do you like about this this interface here?
I really liked, I know we've talked about color a lot of different ways, and I think that this was a really good use of color here, specifically at the month view of this calendar. There might be different types of events that you have, or I know in Google Calendar, there are different types of calendars that I have loaded. And so the use of cards with that decorative banner at the start, that's like a great way to say, oh, this might be your personal calendar, this might be your work calendar. And then when I click into that individual day, I still get that full context over on the right-hand side. I really liked how both Samia and Jones did that here, because I think the trunk test, it's passed. I know exactly where I am. I know exactly where I have to be at 5 a.m. apparently today.
Christine, what about you?
Yeah, so two things. So similarly, I think this shows you can use a lot of color, but in a subtle way, right? Instead of making the full tag that color, just use like a nice decorative bar. And then also in terms of like scalability of your design, right? Like, oh, what if I have more than 5 events? Well, see, we have a nice little more link and it's a little more subtle, right? So give more prominence to the main information on that card and still have the ability to show more if needed.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And something that stood out to me about this one that I didn't necessarily see throughout all the submissions was the uniformity of the size of the cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can select for Appian to be dynamic and change with the content, but then you don't know what your UX is going to look like depending on what gets in there. So I really like making sure like this is going to look uniform. And I also have a contingency plan for if my data doesn't fit in there. So that more is such a great option. Any last notes, Christine or Justin here?
I think that's everything that initially came to mind for me.
Yeah. I love the little tea coffee break for nothing
Go.
planned today.
Go
It's
grab a
nice
coffee.
to get nice messages from the interfaces for sure. I see Jones in the chat here. I just went through all the calendar components and tried to take inspiration from all the best ones. Outlook would be the base layer design. Well, you did a great job here, Jones. Great job. Let's move on to Mathu. All right. So Mathu, why don't you start telling us a little bit?
Yeah, so basically when I joined this challenge, I had this concept in mind to come up with a simple monthly view calendar similar to our laptop and desktop calendars. But when I was building this, I was actually looking for some more inspirations from the internet. And then suddenly I had this idea to look into the Google and Outlook calendar. So I opened the Outlook calendar, and it is like displaying the calendar data in different ways. You can see actually 4 views: monthly view, daily view, week view, and even in week view you can see like work week view. So I took inspiration from there again and implemented this design, and this is kind of like offering 3 types in a single UI, and that too I have given an option to the users so that they can decide what type of calendar they would like to include in their application. If they want to see only the monthly calendar, yes, they can do that using this single component. If they want to see daily and weekly calendar, they can do that customization. So that is how I build this component.
Cool. Great. Thanks for the insight there. Christine, what do you think about using that kind of stamp as a navigation or selection? I think we might have that as a pattern or an option in some places, right?
Yeah, no, I think the stamp component is nice for in these kind of instances where you want this more like subtle selection, and it works well on this screen as well because it's utilizing a lot more spacing, right? This is another good example of how you don't necessarily need lines to delineate like a day, right? You look at this, there's a lot of spacing, and so the 8th is the date, 11th is the date, and so like we have this nice stamp you can use to like use the selection tool. Another thing I really like about this pattern is it shows how reserving the use of the accent color works really well, right? We have it for the tabs on the top right, we have it for the navigation between the months, the day that's selected, and so it feels really natural what that color is used for.
Yeah. What about you, Justin?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like the core, the most important components of this interface, your eyes can immediately detect where that is. And I also really appreciate that she took into consideration how there might be different types of changing the view based on what level you're looking at. So, right, so I'm saying here from August 11th, let's look at the next day, previous day. If we're looking at the week, that change of view is going to go from one week to the next. Or if I'm looking at the month, I'll be moving from one month to the next, right? So it's not just the exact same change of view, taking into consideration what is the experience going to be for this user? What is the next thing they might want to do on a certain type of calendar view? So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, that's great. And I also want to just point out like that use of that icon, which I think is meant to be recurring. But there are like nice ways to, tastefully use icons. A picture's worth 1,000 words. And we have a ton of great icons that we add to all the time. And I'm always even surprised when I come across them. Like we have rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. And a bunch of other things. We do. There's no idea. There's a lot of fun icons, so I find a new one every time I look. All right, last but not least, let's jump over to Gavin. So Gavin is in the air right now, I think, traveling. But here's Gavin's component. So Justin, what's your first thought looking at this?
I think it's fun that he included a dark mode. I think that's exciting. Like, this could easily be a rule input that is hidden to the front end user, and that can just make this reusable. Like, so to Christine's earlier point, if the rest of your application happens to be in dark mode and you want to just easily throw this component in, check or make that Boolean true or false, super easy. Yeah. I think that compared to a user interface that we looked before, like there are a lot of cards here, but the way that there's that pretty neutral color, there's no border, there's no shadow to these cards, it makes it more digestible for me. And overall, the user interface is pretty neutral, and he's intentionally using accent colors in certain places so I can direct my attention very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Christine?
Yeah, kind of working off of that, I think this relates to another point Justin had brought up about when you want to use certain elements on the screen, making sure they're consistent. So, right, like, oh, I'm going to use cards as these like kind of backdrops. Let's make sure they're all rounded, same color coloring, you know, keeping that consistent vibe. And then an interesting point about the dark mode, that's actually a great example of how, let's say you're trying to design something and you're not sure if it should belong across all screens, but you want it to make it user optional or configurable, right? Having it available but not always on is a great way to optionally have some sort of feature or design option.
Yeah, I think that as a toggle is a great example of thinking about reusability, you know, not just from the data perspective, but from the theming perspective. And Dave Hillier, who was on our last live stream, he shared his own like reusability toolkit on the app market. And within that, there are theming components that help you very quickly change themes between applications. So a lot of different ways to think about reusability, and it takes a little bit more time up front, but it's worth it in the end. Okay, I think I got a message that we should have Jones back. Jones, let's see. Can I hear you now? Let's test it out.
Yes, April. Can you?
Yeah. Yes, I can. So now that you're back on, did you want to take the chance to talk about your inspiration or your build process at all?
Yes, I can. And so the initial base layer is like an Outlook, and I was going through all the components in the internet, and the most of the time that I took is for analyzing and for the design part, and it took less time to develop this. And even I have this day view, week view, and month view, which will give more options to the user, and he can also navigate between different weeks and days. And I know it's slow, a bit slow.
We're working here over the internet, over time zones and different countries, so we're doing the best we can here.
Yeah.
Great. So.
Okay.
Anything else to add? Nope.
No, April.
Okay.
I don't know. I was facing a lot of network issues.
Yeah. So sorry about that, and everyone, thanks for bearing with us here. Again, we're trying a new format. We're trying things out. So if you have any things you might want to see or ideas for how we can improve this, we're always looking to get better every time. And also, I just wanted to shout Somi and Mathu out for joining us on a Friday night for you over in India, and even Jones, it's later in the day for you in the UK. So thank you guys for joining us. People in the chat, how does this time slot work compared to normally we do Thursdays at 11 Eastern? Is this a better time? We're trying to play around with things. So, okay, I'm going to give Christine and Justin. Oh, and shout out to Gavin, who's, in the air and got on with me yesterday. Oh, he apparently he has just joined, but in the chat. Sorry I couldn't join. I'm following the live stream. Hey, Gavin. Great to see you. Hope you have a safe flight. Okay, where was I going next? Sorry, guys. So, all right, I'm going to give Justin and Christine a chance to kind of deliberate and chat each other on who they think the winner should be. And also remember, we're giving away some raffle prizes to everyone that submitted to the challenge also. So, if you submitted, stick around there. So now I just wanted to take a moment to maybe chat a little bit more about like your Appian experience and why you like building with Appian, maybe something you learned from this challenge. Maybe Mathu, do you want to start?
Yeah, can you hear me? I hope you all can hear me.
Yep.
Yeah, so the one thing which I learned as part of this challenge is like I could see like I was taking more time than usual because usually whenever we create rule inputs, we'll not give any description. Maybe we'll add comments like for the local variables and the rule inputs used inside the interfaces in the interface definition. But this is something like I was trying to give a proper, readable, developer friendly description so that if someone is new to Appian or if someone is looking into the interface, they will be able to understand like what is the rule input's purpose and what type of data they can pass. So in that case, I was like consuming more time, but yeah, it was nice. Like we'll be able to provide other developers a more view on how the dataless components and how the dataless design works. So in that way, it is good.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And yeah, I think that's a really great point and something that it's very easy to forget, especially when you're the one building a project for yourself, is, oh, someone may look at this later. And not just that, you may look at it later and have no idea what you were thinking 6 months ago or a year ago, right? So being a lot more descriptive, adding comments, adding descriptions to your rule inputs, those are all things that also play into the reusability aspect and getting people on board. And it's taking a little extra time up front to clean things up that will save you so much time later on. Jones, oh no, I think he looks a little frozen again, so I'm not sure if we lost him again. But so Mia, do you have anything to add or anything you took away from this challenge?
Yes, April. So yeah, we all know how reusable this Appian is, but this design library concept is a kind of extra bonus for us because that is having better visibility. So whoever is as a developer, when we are having this design library, we able to easily visualize what is that component is and how it will looks like and everything. So like this challenge is basically kind of the data as the design, right? So when we are building that, we need to think in all the aspects, like our component should be scalable, feasible, and it should also fit for all the device. So yeah, that's the takeaway, because when we are usually developing, we will be focusing on that's static things, right? Because in our project and everything, we know how and how the end user should be and everything. So yeah, that's the takeaway, because that take lot of time to analyze and think from the different aspects. So yeah, and also as Madhu told, like we are like when we are coding, our code should be readable and understandable by other developers also, because this is a kind of common component, because like anyone who wants, they will be getting it and they'll be plugging and integrate it to their device. So yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
Great feedback. Jones, I see you moving again. Do we have you back if you wanted to add any comments or takeaways, inspiration for the audience?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. So first of all, the concept dataless design is interesting one, because like we were helping the fellow developers and making their life easier. That's a major thing. And apart from that, it's interesting to see that same interface can be used across both CDTs, records, and even from the data from the integrations as well. So a single design that is compatible with all the type of data, which makes it more interesting. And apart from that, I also, like in this challenge, I was using rule inputs, descriptions, comments a lot, which I never do, and hereafter I would surely follow to do as well.
Great. All right, so thank you all so much. Let's get into the winners. So I'm going to give Justin and Christine, a last moment, and I'm going to announce the raffle winners. So we had a lot of great submissions. Thanks everyone who participated. Hopefully we can get more participants for our next quick build challenge. So for our raffles for free certification vouchers, our winners are Richard, Daisy, Tejaswini, Saranya, and Gavin. So awesome, guys. And then the raffle winner for the advanced training is Umkesh Kumar. So great job, everyone who submitted. Congrats on your raffle prizes. And now we will head over and talk about the winners for this challenge. So let's get everyone back on screen. So in second place, winning a $100 gift card, we have Jones. Great job, Jones. Yay. Awesome. And then in first place, we have Somia. So $250 gift card to Somia. Great job. And great job to everyone that participated here. I hope everyone had some fun, learned something about how to better better design your interfaces, how to think about UX. Make sure you go check out resources, not just Appian resources, but other resources too. I'm hearing a little bit of static, James. I'm not sure if this is coming through the stream. Thank you. Great. So congrats, everyone from Yexel. Thank you so much to all of our Yexel submitters and everyone else. I think that's it. Christine, Justin, any last parting words of wisdom?
I was really impressed with what everyone put together and built, and I think that dataless design is a developer's dream moving forward, and I think it makes everything so much more reusable. So it made me so excited to see all of the submissions that came in and everyone starting to think this new way of developing on Appian. So keep up the good work.
Awesome. And Christine?
Yeah, super impressed with the limited time you had, not just to build it, but also make updates today. Congrats on that time crunch. And yeah, it seems like a lot of you utilize inspiration, try to find patterns just out there already to use for your own designs. Great way to design moving forward. And not just for dataless reusability, but in terms of design reusability. It's a great theme across all your apps. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks everyone so much for joining. Again, this was our first attempt at something like this. So I hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments or feedback, any ideas for things we can do in the future, I'm all ears. Shoot me an email, post a comment in the chat or on this YouTube video or over on community. Thank you so much for joining today again. If you enjoyed the stream, please hit the like button and let us know. If you have any more questions or ideas, we're always listening here on YouTube and over in community. And our next live stream will be on Friday, September